Hello everybody, it's Dubscr, and I would like to go much more in depth about the game Untitled Ghost Game than my last video. So just to clarify, I am the lead programmer and creator of the game, but I am not making most of the art or music for the game, nor programming completely by myself. I'm in a small team called Gomibako Studios, in which we have 2 programmers, a music producer, and like 5 artists, not including the people who made free art for our game that are not even in our team. So now that this is clear, we can talk about the game's core mechanics and the logic behind them. So firstly, the Ghost AI. The Ghost AI is not only an AI, but an AI controlled by a complex spaghetti code algorithm that decides when it should idle, hunt, or chase the player. When the ghost is idling, it will randomly select a room to spawn in, either the start of the game or right after hunting has finished. After that, it will set its destination to a random room transform. The room transforms are basically like waypoints for the ghost to go. Every time it reaches a waypoint, it checks for the heart rate and has a random chance to hunt, dictated by how high the heart rate is. The higher the heart rate, the more likely to hunt, and vice versa. When the ghost's random chance to hunt triggers a hunt, it does not actually start hunting immediately. It starts a countdown that will make the clock start clicking backwards. And at 3 seconds before the ghost starts hunting, it will blink red, indicating that you should get away from where the ghost is blinking red. Where the ghost blinks red is actually where the ghost room is. When the player is being hunted, the ghost will also check for the flashlight, seeing if it is on or off. If the player's flashlight is on, its player spotting distance is much higher than if the player's flashlight was off. The ghost finds the player because it searches for every player in the scene and then finds the closest one to it, letting it work in single player or multiplayer. Right after the ghost hunts, it has a grace period of 25 seconds divided by the difficulty value. So if you are on max difficulty, you only have a grace period of 5 seconds currently. Now let's talk about the player. The player script is mostly quite simple, except for the setting of the player's skins. It imports skins by loading a resource folder which contains all 13 skins, as of writing the script, animations, and animation controllers that are labeled in a specific way so a script can find them and load them. The animation controller is kind of like a manager that tells the animation component to play certain animations whenever certain things happen in a script. For example, if you walk forward, it will show the walking animation. Everything else about the player is just basic setting rigid body velocity to keyboard input values multiplied by a speed variable. All this means is keyboard make player move. Okay, now it's time for the items. The bread and butter of this game, really. Before I explain how each item works individually, I want to explain how items are picked up and dropped first. When a player picks up an item, it searches for the item closest to the player at the time of pressing the key. After finding the item, it disables the sprite and sets the current item text, enables the functions of the item, and sets the item's parent to the player that picked it up, so it will follow the player until it drops. When the player drops an item, it basically does the inverse of that. So now that you know how items are picked up, I will go through the list of items and explain how each one works. So let's start with the thermometer. The thermometer is distance activated from the room. Remember the ghost waypoints? Well, it has come back again. Items use the ghost waypoint that is in the ghost room to detect if the player is in a certain distance of the room or not. On 2.6 difficulty or higher, the thermometer does not work until the ghost hunts and has a random chance to not show accurate values even when in the ghost room. This means that if the player is in the ghost room checking the readings, it will give normal temperature sometimes instead of hot or cold randomly. Now let's talk about the clock. The clock is simple. When you pick it up, it will count at a normal speed until you are near the ghost, which will speed up the clock. If the ghost starts hunting, it starts counting backwards. Now let's talk about the EMF reader. The EMF reader is similar to the clock in the way that it's distance activated. The closer that you are to the ghost, the higher the reading you will be. EMF 5 does not mean anything, since any EMF levels at all indicate that the ghost is responsive to EMF. The heart rate monitor is very simple as well. It just finds the distance between the player and the ghost, then increases the heart rate if the player is in a certain distance from the ghost, multiplied by how close the player is to the ghost, and vice versa. The Luigi board is named this because I do not feel like typing Ouija. The Luigi board is named this because I don't feel like typing Ouija board hundreds of times. Ah! The Luigi board is named this because I do not feel like typing Ouija board hundreds of times while coding, so I just named it something easier to type. When you ask the questions, "Are you here?" or "Where are you?" to the Luigi board, it will respond with the text "I'm here" or "No response" randomly. The only way you can get Luigi board as an evidence is if you're in the ghost room, and it is counted as an evidence only if the response is not "no response" but a different response. Another voice-activated item is the spirit box. The spirit box works in the same way as the Luigi board, but it is counted as evidence when the ghost responds by speaking back to the player. The easiest evidence to get in this game is Sketchbook. Sketchbook will be randomly written in when in the ghost room and near the ghost. It has a random chance so common that you are basically guaranteed to get the Sketchbook if it is in the ghost room in the first 5 seconds. In the future, it will be less likely and harder to get this evidence. Now let's talk about fingerprints. Now you may be wondering, fingerprints are not evidence items, what are you talking about? They are evidence, so I will include them here. I don't feel like I should have a separate section about them. Fingerprints randomly spawn on any room randomly on the map. Mirrors also spawn randomly on the map, but in fixed positions. The mirrors have a chance to not spawn, and the mirrors are actually incredibly powerful and can stop a hunt when picked up. It does this by literally turning off the ghost's hunting variable, in turn triggering the ghost's idle state. The last item in the game is the Geiger counter, which spikes in radiation when near the ghost or the ghost room. It does this by loading a select audio file of 2 audio files that represent the situation. If near the ghost or ghost room, it will play the high radiation audio clip, and same for the low radiation when not near the ghost or ghost room. Lastly, we can talk about the maps. Maps are a huge part of this game, having different sizes, costs to start, and names. They are just broken up into 2 different tile maps, Obstacle and Background. Obstacle is shadow enabled, and is on a completely different rendering layer than the background tile map. All of the rooms are tagged with room, allowing the ghost to search for the rooms it needs easily. The light switches are the same way, allowing the generator to search for the tag switch and find everything it needs. When turning on light switches, the light can pop the breaker randomly, no matter how many lights are on, forcing you to turn the power back on. The lights can also be turned off by the ghost, letting the switches stay green but not turning off the generator. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you learned something new about game development or my game, and I would greatly appreciate it if you can download the game as well as join our Discord for future updates, polls, and teasers.